My name is Josephine. That evening, I sat alone in the corner of Brookstone Bistro, a table set for six. I had chosen the place 3 weeks earlier, cozy but not too casual. Candlelight shimmered against my glass of red wine, clinging to the faint hope that they would show up. It was my 35th birthday. I wore a long-sleeved Merlot sweater dress paired with black high-heeled boots, not to impress anyone, but because I wanted to look put together, at least for myself. I arrived 15 minutes early, a strange habit of someone who's often forgotten. The wind off the Hudson swept through Manhattan's lit streets, but the chill inside me felt colder. When the clock ticked past 7:18, I tried convincing myself that maybe Mom was still parking, that Meredith, my sister, might be caught up picking out a gift. Matthew, my cousin, always ran late, but at least he usually texted. I kept scrolling on my phone, checking work emails, rereading a company memo that had nothing to do with tonight. Then the screen lit up, a message from Mom, sliced through my thoughts like an icy blade. "You're not our priority right now. Don't wait." I read those 12 words over and over, heart pounding. Not from emotion, but from the sheer blow to my dignity. On my birthday. No apology. No birthday wish. Just a dismissal, spelled out without flinching. I took a deep breath, trying to smile as the server approached. He handed me a Navy Mule gift box tied with a silver ribbon. "Someone dropped this off earlier, said it's from your family," he said. I nodded, playing calm. I unwrapped the ribbon, peeled away the paper carefully. Inside was a cream-colored silk scarf, finely embroidered, oddly familiar. I turned the edge over and felt my chest tighten. A tiny loose thread on the corner. The same flaw I accidentally made last Christmas when I tried tying it for Mom. I remembered buying it in Seattle. It cost nearly a month's savings. I pulled the small card from beneath the tissue paper. The top read, "Happy birthday from all of us," but underneath I saw handwriting I knew by heart. "Love you always, Mom." It was mine. The note I had written last year when I first gave her that scarf. They hadn't just skipped dinner, they re-gifted what I gave them, complete with the original card, barely disguised. I placed the scarf back in the box. My hands were steady, but my chest felt weighted. A couple at the next table toasted softly, celebrating their 10th anniversary. Jazz drifted in from the corner, warm but distant. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there, a background character in my own celebration. After a moment, I reached into my purse and pulled out a yellow sticky note. I wrote 5 words, clean and deliberate. I placed it in the center of the table, next to the untouched gift box and half-full wine glass. Then I left a $20 bill beneath my coaster and quietly walked away. No goodbyes, no backward glance. The note read, "Thank you, no more seats." I left the restaurant just as the clock struck 8:30. The cold night air in New York pierced my skin like tiny needles, but inside I felt nothing. The chill outside was nothing compared to the quiet emptiness gnawing away from within. Back in my small apartment on the Upper West Side, I didn't turn on the lights. The glow from the apartment complex across the street was enough to guide me to the counter where I set down my purse. My phone buzzed. I wasn't going to check it until the screen lit up again with an Instagram notification. Molly just posted a new story. Molly, my cousin, who usually only appeared when she needed money or wanted to post family photos that I was never invited to be in. I should have ignored it, but for some reason, my thumb moved. The video lasted barely 30 seconds, but it knocked the breath out of me. There was my mother beaming at a candlelit dinner table, glass of Prosecco in hand. Beside her, Meredith, my sister, and Dylan, my younger cousin. The 3 of them were at an upscale Italian restaurant in Boston, nearly 4 hours away. At the center of the table sat a gold-dusted chocolate cake with the words, "Congratulations, Dylan, the family's inspiration." I zoomed in. Dylan held up a new keychain with a motorcycle emblem, a gift that wasn't cheap. I remembered the phone call from 3 weeks ago. Dylan, nearly in tears. Joe, I'm behind on rent. My landlord's threatening eviction. I just switched jobs. Paycheck hasn't come in. I wired him $1,500 the next morning without hesitation. I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't expect him to use that money to throw a party for himself. A party the rest of the family chose to attend instead of coming to mine. I sank into a chair. No screaming, no throwing things, just silence, rising like a tide, then receding, leaving behind the sludge of truth. I grabbed my phone, opened my banking app. In the dim light, the transactions hit like slaps. February 12th. Zelle, Dylan Matthews, $1,500. January 26th. Venmo, Meredith R., $900 advance for Ava's tuition. January 3rd. ACH, Velma Jennings, 211 Huntress dollar emergency dental bill. I scrolled back further. November, $800, furnace repair at Mom's. September, $1,250, Dylan's car broke down. July, $3,000, helped Meredith pay off credit card debt to protect her credit score. In under a year, I had sent over $10,000. Not a single repayment, not a single thank you. I opened a new Google Sheet and named it Jennings Family Financial History. Outstanding! The first line I typed wasn't a number, but a truth. No one remembers my birthday, but everyone remembers my account number. I logged each payment, each reason, each recipient. Some I didn't even remember sending, but the bank did. Then came the bitterest realization. Not once had anyone asked if I was okay. They only asked when I could send money. I reopened the Instagram post. My mother was raising her glass, mouthing something. I couldn't hear it, but I knew. She was praising Dylan for his hard work and perseverance. I set my phone down. My palms had gone cold. The money I sent, thinking I was keeping Dylan from being evicted, had turned into a gold-dusted cake and a motorcycle gift, and they called him the Inspiration. I stood up, walked to my filing cabinet, and pulled out a folder that once held tax documents. I labeled a new section, Extracted Evidence. This time, I wasn't just hurt. I was wide awake. I sat in front of my laptop for 3 straight hours without moving from the chair. The apartment was dark, lit only by the screen reflecting off my face. A face slowly shedding the last traces of someone who once believed family would never hurt her. I opened another Google Sheet, titled it Non-Reimbursed Financial Support. I began logging every amount I had sent in the past 5 years, pulling details from bank transactions, emails, even old text messages. Column 1, date. Column 2, recipient. Column 3, reason. Column 4, amount. Final column, repaid. Every row marked no or never mentioned again. By the 19th row, I had to pause. Not because my hands were tired, but because my palms had gone cold and damp. April 17th, Meredith, deposit for daughter's yoga center, $750. March 9th, Velma, remote, emergency flight to Arizona for dying uncle, $560. November 22nd last year, Dylan, court fine for driving without a license, $980. They had all cried on the phone. They all said things like, "You're the only one I can ask," or, "Joe, without you, I'm done for." I bit my lip, opened a new document. Title, Emotional Debts. This time, I didn't search through accounts. I searched memory. Little cuts I once brushed off as accidental suddenly formed a clear pattern. A long chain of calculated disregard. Canceled Oregon trip in 2019 because Mom said the plumbing exploded. Turned out it was just a clogged sink. Drove 3 hours to help with Meredith's birthday decor, then was left out of all family photos. Cooked for 20 people at Dylan's graduation party, then got stuck doing all the dishes alone. Christmas 2021 brought homemade cake. Velma whispered to a guest, "Joe made something again. No one eats that stuff." I didn't think I'd write more than 10 lines, but when I looked up, the emotional debt list was longer than the financial one. Not because I remembered everything, but because none of it ever truly left me. Every time I was treated like background. Every time I was framed as the reliable one, the helper, never the center. Every time I was cut out of the group photo, the thank you speech, the retold memory, I didn't cry. That feeling had passed. What replaced it was something sharper, clarity. What I once labeled sadness was, in fact, a form of debt, and I had paid for it in pieces of myself. At 1 a.m., I saved both documents. I titled the folder Bought with Clarity. Then I opened a drawer, pulled out an old photo from our family trip to Lake Placid. Meredith in a red coat, smiling bright. Dylan holding a snowboard. Mom and Velma with arms around each other in the center. Me, off to the side, half obscured by a pine tree. I wrote on the border in thick marker, present but never counted, then slid it into the evidence file. One question still echoed quietly in my chest. If one day I stopped sending money, stopped answering calls, stopped saying yes, would they still call me family? I didn't have the answer, but for the first time in years, I had something better, proof. I don't know what prompted me to log into the federal property portal that morning. Maybe it was just vague curiosity. Or maybe it was instinct, the kind that forms in those who've grown used to secrets being kept from them by their own family. I opened a new tab and typed in the property name, 28 Willow Creek Drive, Albany, New York. The two-story colonial-style home my mother and I had co-owned since my father's passing in 2018. I had spent nearly $68,000 on roof repairs, plumbing upgrades, and mortgage payments over 3 years. We had signed a clear agreement. I owned 50%. A few seconds after the record loaded, I froze. Current owners: Velma Jennings and Dylan Matthews. My name was no longer listed. I clicked to download the most recent title update. The document was nearly 40 pages, but I only needed one section. Schedule A, ownership change. Effective date, 3 weeks ago. Signature, Josephine A. Jennings, handwritten, perfectly even strokes. Too perfect. I hadn't signed any documents in the past month. I hadn't even been in Albany since Thanksgiving. I immediately called the Albany County Recorder's Office. Hi, I need to verify a property ownership record, parcel number 487W9A82. After a few minutes on hold and 2 transfers, a middle-aged woman finally answered. We do have a hard copy on file, notarized. Looks like it was submitted in person. Your signature is on it, but there's no ID copy attached. I took a deep breath. Can you confirm who submitted the documents? The name on the intake form is Dylan Matthews. Present notarized paperwork on site. I thanked her and ended the call. My hands trembled. A flurry of memories stormed my mind. Dylan next to a birthday cake, Velma raising the glass, the reused tablecloth returned to me in an empty gift box, all of it falling into place like icy puzzle pieces. I opened my file drawer and pulled out the photocopy of the original ownership agreement. My name, my signature. Notarized at the local attorney's office 4 years ago. Then I reopened my financial records. A $2,800 transfer to Mom last February. Unexpected property tax. Another $1,750 sent to Dylan. To make sure Mom didn't lose the house. They said, Joe, we're family, it's just paperwork. Now that paperwork had become their weapon to erase me from my own life. I forwarded all the files to the inbox of someone I once met at a financial seminar, Ava Moreno, a real estate attorney who specialized in family disputes and signature forgery. In the message, I wrote, urgent, I suspect unauthorized transfer of co-owned property, possible forged signature, evidence attached, hoping for a prompt reply. I hit send. This time, my hands were steady. 5 minutes later, Ava replied, I just did a quick review. This is a serious violation. We need to file a complaint with the county court this week. Don't say anything to them. I'll prepare the lawsuit documents before Monday. I stared at the screen, mind blank. Not out of fear, but because for the first time in years, I truly saw the truth. They weren't just cutting me out of family dinners, they were trying to wipe me off the map, both literally and legally. I heard the knock around 4 in the afternoon, just as sunlight began to slant through the living room window. I didn't need to check the peephole to know who it was. My mother's knock had a rhythm of its own. 3 quick taps, a pause, then one firm knock. Like a period. She always called it polite but commanding. I opened the door. Velma stood there, holding a pastel-colored paper bag with a crooked bow. The faint scent of Chanel No. 5 lingered in the air, a smell tied to every time she came to clear up misunderstandings. "Joe, I think we need to talk," she said, lips pulled into a stiff smile. I didn't invite her in, but she walked past me anyway, as if permission had been granted. She casually placed the bag on the kitchen counter, glancing around the apartment like she was evaluating how well I lived without them. "I know things got a little off track lately," she began, dabbing at eyes that hadn't shed a single tear. "Dylan's still young. He doesn't understand responsibility. And me, I just wanted to keep the house with the right people. I never meant to make you feel excluded." I stood still, arms folded. Forging my signature. Filing to remove me from ownership without asking? That wasn't meant to? She hesitated, then quickly composed herself. "I thought Dylan already talked to you. I didn't think you cared about that house anymore. You haven't been back to Albany in 2 years. Because every time I came back, you called me selfish. Told me staying single too long would make me a burden. Because I've always been the last pick after everyone else's plans fall through," I said flatly. No yelling, no edge, just clear, like lab results. I stepped to the table, opened a drawer, and pulled out the file I'd prepared the day before. I placed it in front of her, then sat down. "This is a summary of what I've contributed to this family since 2018. Velma hesitated, then opened it. First line. "Albany roof repairs after snowstorm, $4,200. The emergency dental bill for mom, $2,100. The college prep tuition for Ava, Meredith's daughter. Last minute flight for Dylan, $560. Paid Meredith's credit card debt, $3,000. This most recent birthday month, $1,500 for Dylan's rent and party." Her hands trembled as she flipped to the final page. At the bottom, I had written in bold, totaled $18,940. No one mentioned it, no one paid it back, no one said thank you. Velma looked up at me. Her face no longer tried to mimic grit, only displayed thinly veiled irritation. "What's the point of this?" she asked, voice nearly cracking, not from emotion but from pride. I replied calmly, "So you'll know. Next time someone asks, 'Where's Josephine?' don't say I'm distant. Don't say I don't care. Tell the truth, I stopped paying to be ignored." Silence cracked open between us like a fault line. Velma closed the file and slid it back toward me. "You always think you're the victim," she muttered, standing up. "I didn't come here to be treated like a criminal." And I said, am done being the family's open wallet for pretend emergencies. Velma picked up the pastel bag, then paused. She didn't offer it. She left it on the counter instead, like it was her last scrap of dignity. Then she turned, walked out the door, and said nothing more. I didn't follow. I just stood there, watching the door close behind her. No sobbing, no shaking. Just a strange quiet, like I had finally pulled a needle from an old wound, and the bleeding felt necessary. I dropped the gift bag into the trash, unopened. I didn't need more recycled things. I needed the truth. The next morning, I brewed coffee using the expensive beans I used to save for special guests. But this time, the cup was for me, the only person who had stayed while the entire family kept walking away. I sat down in front of my laptop and opened the list of shared accounts. First task, logging into First Riverbank, where I had merged my checking account with my mother's back in 2020 to make property taxes easier. It took less than 3 minutes to remove my name from all authorizations and revoke all access from unknown devices. I double confirmed then hit permanently unlocked. Next was the supplementary credit card I had opened for Meredith because she needed a few online purchases for Ava. I never saw Ava wearing those clothes, but I always saw the statements land in my mailbox every month. I canceled it with a note terminating unauthorized financial liability. Then came the subscriptions. The internet bill in Albany that I had quietly paid for 18 months, even though my mother always said, the Wi-Fi's terrible, probably the provider's fault. I cut it off. Then I canceled Netflix, Spotify Family, and the cloud photo sharing app that Dylan had secretly used to save hundreds of motorcycle videos for bikes he couldn't afford. I used to think sharing kept a family close. Turns out I was just leaving the door open for people to walk in, take a little more each time, and leave behind an emptier room. Finally, I opened a new document and titled it, What I Owe Myself. I wrote, Chapter 1, Learning to Say No Without Guilt. Chapter 2, Loving Without Needing Validation. Chapter 3, Owning My Time, Money, and Kindness. I didn't write it to post online, I wrote it to remember. To remember that this version of Josephine wasn't the girl rushing to fix every crisis someone else created and then handed to her like it was her duty. I printed each page, placed them into a new folder, and labeled it, Not Selfish, Survival. That afternoon, I wrote a small birthday card I didn't plan to send. I left it on the kitchen counter, next to an old photo of me and Dad on a fishing trip when I was 12. The only photo in this home I never felt like taking down. In neat, clear handwriting, I wrote, Happy birthday, Josephine. You deserve people who come for you. Not your gifts, not your money, you. I closed the card and placed it beside a simple white candle. No cake, no flowers, just quiet. But this time that quiet belonged to me, not what was left after everyone else had taken everything. I sat on the sofa and opened the balcony door. The May wind blew in with the scent of city dust and distant car horns, sounds of a city that once made me feel lonely, now, somehow, felt freeing. My phone pinged. A new message from the group chat Family First, the name they changed it to a few days ago. I didn't open it. I didn't need to know what they were saying, I already knew enough. I opened my email, typed in the subject line, Notice of Termination of Personal Financial Support. Sent to Velma, Meredith, and Dylan. No lengthy explanations, just 3 attachments, a 5-year contribution spreadsheet, photo of my name removed from the deed, and a timeline of emotional manipulation. I ended the email with just one sentence. I am no longer who I used to be for you, and I will not pay for my silence. I hit send, no hesitation, no spell check. An hour later, Ava, my lawyer, texted, The claim has been filed, we'll recover the misappropriated assets, but more importantly, you're reclaiming yourself. I leaned my head against the glass door, watching the streetlights flicker on one by one. No more choking back tears. No more asking, why would they do this to me? I knew now, and I didn't need a reason to stop. I only needed one to move on. A week after I sent the financial support termination email, the flood of messages came down like a sudden rainstorm. The first one came from Dylan at 6 a.m., a time he'd never be awake unless something serious happened, or he needed money. Joe, you're taking this way too far. Family is family. Why bring in a lawyer? Mom's been crying for days. You happy now? I didn't respond. I forwarded the message to my email, filed it under the folder titled Defamation Log, DM, right next to screenshots from his birthday party Instagram story, where I had been erased from every post like I'd never existed. A few hours later came Meredith's turn. Her message was almost an essay. You're seriously turning your back on blood over a couple $1,000 and a name on a paper? Ava asked why Aunt Jo didn't show up at the weekend party. I didn't even know what to say. I'm honestly embarrassed for you. I stopped reading at the word embarrassed, then typed a quick note next to it in my tracking file. They called a disgrace for refusing to continue financial support for the family. No apology for forged documents. The last message of the day came from Velma, barely 2 lines. I raised you all these years, and now you're suing me? Are you even human? This time, I sat down. Not because it hurt, but because I was used to the role reversal trick. My mother was always the selfless one, and I was always the ungrateful child. I reopened the file, defamation log, VG, and added the conversation. I didn't mark it urgent, nor did I write any long notes, just filed it. Like a small cut that's already been disinfected. No longer stings, just needs monitoring. Lawyer Ava had told me, don't respond. Anything you say now can be twisted and used against you. Let the evidence speak for itself. So that's exactly what I did. That evening, I sat on the floor, back against the wall, cradling a cup of black tea. Outside the window, a light drizzle blurred the glow of the streetlights. Hundreds of droplets reflecting like eyes watching me. I pulled up an old photo on my phone. One I'd taken of Ava and her daughter at the cafe near City Hall. They sat side by side, both beaming. No one had to borrow anything from the other just to smile like that. No one had to sacrifice their identity to feel seen. I locked the screen, set the phone down, and opened a file titled Things I No Longer Believe. First line I typed, Mom did this because she loves me. The family never turns its back on each other. You're the only one we can count on. Don't blow things out of proportion. Each sentence was a hook, unfastened from my body. The next morning, I received an email from Ava. The court has accepted the filing. The preliminary hearing is next week. They can't ignore you anymore. I hit reply and typed 3 words. I'm ready now. That afternoon, Dylan called. I didn't pick up. He left a voicemail. You can tear this family apart, but don't expect anyone to stand by you when you're old and alone. I listened to the whole thing, saved it under the tag Threat, May 16th. Then I blocked his number. I pulled a sticky note from the kitchen drawer and wrote one single sentence. Loneliness is sitting at a crowded dinner table where no one wants to look your way. I stuck it on the bathroom mirror, right next to the only photo I hadn't taken down. The one of Dad and me fishing at sunset 19 years ago. When I looked up and saw myself in the mirror, I knew. This wasn't a story about betrayal anymore. This was the journey of pulling myself out of a trap, one disguised with the most familiar name of all. Family. I woke up early that day, not because of an alarm or a phone notification, but because of the soft light of dawn filtering through the blinds. The apartment was still quiet, but this time, the silence didn't feel like isolation. It was the space I created to start over. No yelling, no accusatory texts, no presence that made me bow my head in the name of blood. Ties. I walked to my desk, opened my laptop, and browsed a real estate site in Asheville, North Carolina. A small town, mild weather, thriving art community. No one knew me there. And because of that, I could be anyone. Or more accurately, I could be myself. I placed a deposit on a small wooden cabin nestled in the pines, about a 10-minute drive from town center. 2 bedrooms, a balcony facing the mountains, an open kitchen, and a workspace overlooking a misty valley. I didn't need a mansion. I just needed a place where no one would label me the ungrateful daughter. I sent my boss an email requesting a 6-month unpaid leave. In the email, I wrote, I'm not quitting. I'm pausing to rebuild myself. If the company still needs me in 6 months, I'll return, stronger. If not, I'll still be okay. By 4 p.m., I had packed the essentials into 3 cardboard boxes. The rest, keepsakes, certificates, old Christmas cards from Mom, I placed in a black trash bag. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I no longer needed them to prove I had once been loved. I printed a small card and taped it inside the fridge door. This is the last time I answer a call just to be met with silence. Then I grabbed a pen and underlined the words, last time. That night, I played instrumental music. A cedar-scented candle flickered on the shelf. I drank half a glass of red wine and wrote in a fresh notebook. Day 1. No more asking permission to be myself. The next morning, I locked the door, mailed the keys to the landlord as scheduled, then stepped out onto the street with my rolling suitcase and worn leather boots. No one saw me off. No one asked where I was going, and for once, I didn't need them to. The bus left the city at 6:30 a.m. Through the window, I watched my reflection blur with the receding skyline. The Josephine shaped by misplaced expectations, forced roles, and dutiful silence. She wasn't gone. She was free. On the way to Asheville, I pulled out my phone and deleted the Family First group chat. The last message was still unread. We're still family, Joe, no matter what. I didn't need to open it. I already knew the script. The same old tape on loop. If you don't sacrifice, you're the bad one. But I wasn't the listener anymore. Once there, I rented a small pickup truck and hauled my things to the new cabin. The road was covered in dry leaves. The late afternoon sun filtered through the trees, golden but not harsh. I stepped out and took a deep breath. No nameplate on the door, no one waiting, and strangely, that was exactly what I needed. I climbed the wooden steps, opened the door, and stepped into a space still smelling of fresh paint. I set down my suitcase, walked a slow lap around the house, then opened my laptop and created a new folder on the desktop. Josephine from the beginning. I opened a Word document and typed the first line. I used to think freedom was a destination, but it turns out it's a decision. And I just made it. Outside, the wind swept through the pines. The house was still. I smiled. Not the strained smile of a daughter trying to stay strong, but the smile of a woman who's finally learned how to live without asking for permission. My story doesn't end here, it's only just begun, and this time, I hold the pen. Josephine's story is a powerful reminder that not all blood ties are worth preserving. In real life, many people are bound by the role of the one who carries everything in the family, forgetting their own worth. Choosing to walk away isn't selfish. It's the first step toward healing. Freedom doesn't come from someone else's forgiveness, but from the firm decision that you deserve respect, fairness, and a life that is truly your own. What do you think about Josephine's choice? Was she too harsh or simply protecting herself? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt stories about family and life.